Hello everyone, I'm Matt and welcome to the Streamliner update for March 2017. And you may be thinking to yourself that why am I sat at my computer and why are you seeing me instead of seeing, for example, the table with parts on it. And there's the good reason for that is I'm actually showing you the LEGO Digital Designer files I'm actually working from in this update to begin with, and there's going to be a little bit about what I have in sort of like stock and what I have built essentially to start doing work on the loco and what else I have prepared for the passenger carriages. So we're actually going to start off today by looking at the locomotive itself, and here it is in all its glory. Now I'm actually currently doing a bit of revision work on this because at the moment this is still a 7 wide build, but for the most part, but there is a bit which is only 6 wide, and I'm looking to get that modified to 7 wide, and you can actually see that right here in the middle, roughly where the dome starts. So you can, if I rotate this around, you can sort of see that there's the dome there with those two Nexo Knight shield pieces at the top, and then just where the second one sort of goes into the point, you can see that that's the split there, just to the front half of the middle driving wheel, which is actually a blind driver, so it can go around corners better. And the reason why all the skirting has been deleted off this side is that I was doing a little bit of revision before recording this, and then I realised that the skirting I'd added actually wasn't supported at all underneath. Which is another reason for trying to modify it into a full 7 wide build, is that I don't then have to worry about different levels of skirting, except for maybe around the top of the cylinder block, which is actually this black bit here. So if I turn this round, you can actually see what the original skirting was like, and that actually worked fairly well, with the exception of this part, because this part wasn't supported either. So as you can see, it is a 462 Pacific wheel formation locomotive, and for the 6 wide to 7 wide revision, is essentially this front half of the loco from the shield, from the dome, all the way front to the streamlined front. Now you can see from the front that it's actually 6 wide with a 7 wide bit of skirt at the bottom. And that essentially has to be repeated fully, so it's fully 7 wide. So what does the loco feature? Well, the drive of it, I've previously mentioned this, is actually driven by 2 medium motors hidden inside the loco. So now I've selected the high tool, I'm actually going to go in and show you this, because the high tool doesn't actually modify the actual design of the loco. I can do a lot of hiding, like so. Hide the panels, hide the pieces, and I'm even going to hide a wheel or 2, just so you can see the full thing. So I've now taken away quite a good portion of the side of the loco, and you can actually see the mechanism now. We have 2 medium motors here driving a large 20 teeth wheel, which then drives a standard 12 teeth wheel, so you get a 20 to 12 reduction, and then you have another set of reduction after that, going from 16 to 8, I believe it is, if I can get the wheel. Yeah, so 16 to 8, so that's reducing it again. And the reason why I've gone for that sort of reduction is it should give a good speed boost to the loco, so it's still nice and powerful because it's got 2 motors, so it can pull the train properly, but it should be able to get a really good bit of speed pulling that load as well, so it's not reliant on a single motor and a single set of gears to do it. It's actually got 2 sets of gears so it can drive it properly. And the loco doesn't actually just drive the rear set of drivers either, it also drives the front set as well. So the powered axles are both on both the end sets of wheels for the driving wheels are actually powered. So if I go to the high tool again, you can actually see that if I take enough of this out, you can actually see that there is a second set of gears which will be driving the next set. I think that actually might be the wrong way around, which I'll need to look at when I'm actually doing the mechanism in real life. But if I now, but you can also see in this when I was taking away the pieces, I was actually using quite a few panel pieces, and the reason for that is that it saves slightly on weight, and it also means that in terms of where there's a bit of a tight space, especially around the motors, because they can be quite bulky, and sometimes around the gears, because they have because of the technique being a odd number system mainly, and bricks being an even number system. There is a slight discrepancy in some bits where you need a little bit extra clearance, which one stud will give you, but then you're wasting space, and that's where the panels come in to sort of enclose it a bit better, and actually means you save a bit of weight, and you also get a bit of structural integrity as well, because you're not having to use multiple pieces to do the same job, or some very clever snot work, which might not fit into the space available. So I'm going to unhide all that lot, so it goes back to its normal view. So this is the tender as well, and the tender actually contains a standard PF battery. I'm actually probably going to go for a rechargeable one, just so I can just have to take the top off the tender, but I might just use a removable one, purely because it's actually going to be easier to facilitate that, because it's actually tiled in the interior of the tender mostly, so a battery should just be able to slide in and out without too much trouble. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually showing you the cab, or what is essentially the cab. So you can see here it's a 7-wide cab as per the rest of the train, and it's actually supposed to be an oil-fired loco, which is why you don't see a coal bunker or anything like that. That's supposed to be where the oil's put in, and here's where the water's put in for refueling. So you can actually see here that it's actually got a bit of a mechanism here. So that's how. So oil would be fed in from the tender, and then it'd be distributed over the pan, sort of here, and that would then feed the boiler. And there's a few representations of controls. So we got a little round bit there. We got a panel piece there to show some gauges. We got a wheel and a lever, and I might see if I can fit in another lever and possibly a bit of a seat as well, so that the driver can sit down while he's driving. So there's not much else to talk about in terms of the tender. It's not a corridor tender, but I might actually modify it to be a corridor tender if I think that it's actually suitable. At the moment it's just a standard sort of like a slab end tender, because obviously as a streamlined loco it would normally be going forward rather than backwards, except for maybe some yard manoeuvres, which wouldn't need any form of streamlining or anything else. So with that done, I'm just going to unhide everything now, and the back arrow is just going to be putting that, isn't it? Yes. So that's fine. So actually I'm going to say that there, and then we're going to go into the passenger set. So we start off actually with the work I've currently been doing on the restaurant car, which is this one here, and that is actually very incomplete. You can actually see that I've started working on it to try and get it correctly. Now in this image, or what you can see now, you can actually see there's actually a different colour between the coaches, and that's because this coach here, which is actually the baggage coach, is actually using a dark blue, I think it is. Yeah, this is using earth blue, whereas this the coach on the right is actually using bright blue, and bright blue is actually the standard Lego blue. But the reason why things are in dark blue is that I think dark blues are much more closely representative to how it looks like in real life than the bright blue does, because bright blue seems to be a bit pale and a bit sort of like chalky blue, or boy blue, I'd say, so rather bright and lively colour, whereas the blue is in real life is actually a bit darker. So I'm going to start off actually with the baggage, with this sort of like baggage slash transition car, and as you can see, it's built around the same sort of chassis and design as most of the other coaches, but it actually doesn't have any passenger actual carrying compartments. It's just designed for parcels or luggage. So there are a few windows in here. I'm going to add those to the not add those to the other side, largely because in these coaches there's actually storage on one side and windows only on the other side, so they could actually see in better. So this would all have storage against this side will have storage against it, and this would be a walkway for staff, so that could actually see in as well. And you can actually see how I'm fixing this the design of the arrow to the body using these bars. And you can actually see that actually the top bar actually is only supported by one clip, and that's because this is actually the whole arrow assembly is actually connected via the bottom bar, which is actually anchored in at 2 points. So the top bar is actually just there to ensure a bit of rigidity in the whole system, so it remains nice and solid build because of the amount of snot involved. And the other thing to note is actually the doors aren't actually in the end of the coach, they're actually slightly inbound towards the middle, which is actually more realistic for baggage compartments or baggage cars rather than standard ones. So the next car I'm going to look at is the observation car. You can actually see this is actually slightly different to what you've seen before, because of the way it is in LDD, because I've been doing a few revisions. So for example, we've got this tile here, which is actually going to have the design of the train on, so it's probably going to be called the Brickliner or something along that line, just because it's a reference to Lego. I've actually also added marker lights to the side of the coach, and these are actually just fed in from standard 1x1 headlight bricks mounted on the pillars, which so that 1x1 headlight brick has just actually replaced the standard 1x1 brick, so that actually looks better. And in real life, this 1x1 tile here has actually changed to being a G-slope, so that's actually there, and that actually looks a bit better, in my opinion. But the observation case compared to real life is actually not that much different to how it is in real life, with the exception of it actually looks a bit more complete. So you've previously seen a carcass for a coach, but you haven't actually seen the interior. And this is essentially what it is. It's just a series of tables and chairs. Now this obviously might come under a bit of revision, obviously because there's not much in the way of capacity on the train. And the other thing I need to do is, because these are a set sort of window style in terms of their studs, so it's a row of 1x1 bricks followed by another window followed by 1x1 bricks followed by windows followed by another 1x1 brick, and then a window, then 1x1 brick, and the other door. The observation car at the end doesn't actually follow that because of the bar section, so that needs a bit of revision to tie in and make it more complete again. So as you can see, we have an observation car, 2 standard cars, and then we have the kitchen car, which is still being worked on. So you can sort of see I've started looking into how I do the actual kitchen part. So we've got 2 would-be ovens or cooking facilities, or possibly even refrigerators there, and we've got some a saucepan and a pot there for food preparation. And you can see that because I've used the containers to represent the ovens or fridges, there's actually a little bit stepping into the white there, which is something I need to look into to mask, either using stickers or by applying a very thin bead of paint to the top of the container so it matches. And the last point I'll point out for this video is the doors for the end diaphragms between the coaches. So you can actually see into the coach, but in reality you wouldn't actually be able to see that. So you can actually see there's a door here with a little handle on it as well, which is actually on both sides, and that is a standalone assembly that can just be slotted in after the coach is complete. And I will point out that actually this baggage car here, which is still slightly being worked on, especially for the interior. This bit of the door is actually going to be slightly different because it's actually supposed to, because there's no corridor tender. This is actually just be like a slab covering on it, so that it could still be used in other services, but it would just be slab sort of like blanked off, so there wouldn't be any issues with passengers trying to get in, access it. So the door would be locked off, and then there'd be a cover drawn over it, so it'd be nice and secured from any weather elements. And you can also see, while I spotted it, you can actually sort of see the bathtub sort of design for the underframe, which is here. So you can sort of see that this is actually just 12 studs long, so two 6x6 measurements, or two 1x6 measurements. So you have these 2x6 plates and these 1x6 bricks for the underframe, and then you have the special 2x4x2 bricks with the studs on three sides, so the top and the two sides, which is actually attached this to the underside. So that's all the update for the computer side of things. Now you're going to see some footage I've previously recorded about what I've got in terms of Lego bricks and pieces for the build. And welcome to part 2 of the Streamliner update, and I'm going to show you a box. There you go, a box. This is actually all the parts I've currently got in reserve for the Streamliner project that aren't currently assembled. So, for example, we have the chassis, which you've seen before, which actually is still the original Mark 1 chassis, which needs revision. But now I've actually added in all the pins or connecting pieces from Technic. So these actually do turn, and you can see that through the gearing, the front and rear wheels work in tandem. And that's because the two holes here in the mechanism are actually where the gears are going to go from the second axle, which is the drive axle, which is then fed directly from the motors. So we have the chassis for the steam loco. We also have the two tender bogies here, and these are complete with the exception of one of these black 2x2 plates with the Technic pin on the other one. So these actually go like that, ordinary, but I've just connected them using magnets for storage purposes. We also have these two part sort of almost assembled bogies, and these are for coaches. So we've already got the two coaches you've seen previously in the second update. So these are the start of a third. And as you can see, there's loads of incorrect elements like this. This should be black, those should be black, that should be black, that should be black, that should be black. Essentially, it's just because I ran out of black, because these are quite black intensive constructions, though, for the underframe or the bogies or the roof, because it's quite also black. Next, this is a rather interesting piece and rather colourful. This is actually the rear trailing truck for the Loco. I have previously mentioned that I converted it into a 462 format, so this actually sits underneath the cab, which I actually have here, which is, as you can see, there's lots of different wrong colours on it. But essentially, if that's the cab there, this actually sort of sits like that underneath. Or like that underneath rather. So it actually sits like that, and then you can obviously see there's a little bit of a gap where the underframe is, but that actually sits there, and that's actually the connection. And you can see there's actually, it's all like mirrored, and that's actually the connection to the tender. And the side frames are actually of a rather interesting construction because they're only actually held on in 2 points. So if I take it off these, you can actually see that they're only held on by these two pins here in this 1x6 Technic brick,
So all this does is that the two innermost ones actually snap onto that, and that's essentially how it fixes on. So it is prone to wobble like that. You can actually see it wobbling, but for most intents and purposes that'll actually be fine. The other bits in here you've probably seen before, like the lights and the motors, but this is actually something I'll show you. This is actually the start of the front bogie. This is actually coming under a bit of a revision as well. Essentially, like most of the mock, it's just waiting for correct parts. Like these Techni bricks need to be in black, other load of bits need to be in black, and so on and so forth. The remaining bits in here are just, if you exclude the assemblies, are just here for storage. So we have this Technic plate, which is used for the bogies, well, for attaching the bogies to an underframe. We have this 1x1 brick in the blue colour. Lastly, we also have these two assemblies from the front of the loco. So this actually fits on the loco like that. So this is actually the front of the loco, and this is actually what is on the top of the loco to start the streamlining over the top and preserve it going left to right. So this would actually be sort of like that in real life when it's assembled. This is all I've got at the moment in reserve. There's been no updates to the coaches yet because we're waiting parts. And finally part 3, which is what I have in stock for the Streamliner project. And it's actually all stored in, very helpfully, these 3 tubs. So I'm going to start at the bottom. And this is the underframe and roof box. So we've got all the various bits we may need. Oh. Why do I have that? Oh yes, for the truck things. So basically all this is for the PCs that I need for the mock. So we have the bits for the underframe, for the smooth bit underneath the coaches. We've got bits for the actual plate frame, bits for the smooth sloped bricks for the roof. We have the 1x1 rounds in flat silver, I believe, which are slightly shiny, and these are for the suspension springs, as you can see on this example. So you'd only see that between 2 bogie wheels. Also got various tiles, 1x1 plates, and we've even got some bricks in here for bits of the underframe as well. So there's not a lot of specialist stuff here, it's mostly just standard stuff. I think the most extravagant is actually these bricks with studs on 3 sides, so the top and the 2 sides, because that's underneath, and these bogie plates for the coaches, for the bogies on the coaches. Right, let's put that at the back where it normally sits. The second tub, which is this one, is actually for the bodywork, or at least the small bits of the bodywork and finishing pieces. So we have various bricks in white, in blue, we also have these curved bricks for the top of the loco, some tiles, and this is just for the finishing bits of the engine and coaches. So it's the sides, the roof, for the loco and tender, and a few other bits and pieces. But it's just pretty, aside from the 2x4 tile and maybe these cheese slopes, there's nothing really outstanding in that tub. The third one, however, is slightly different because this is the interior and the large scale bits. So we have, for example, a door here, oh, 2x4 tile, that should be in the other one, and a few other bits and pieces. Just put that in the other one, so I don't remember. So yes, we have, like, for example, these window frames, this glass piece for doors, this space for seats, this is the top of the chimney or the stack. It's not actually going to be a big stack, it's only actually 2 plates high compared to the body, and it actually is only 1 plate high compared to the body because the height of it is, if you imagine the arch brick, it's got the depression where you can sit a plate and it makes that nice smooth round. There's actually one bit where a 2x4 section is actually untiled, and it has 2x2 round plates, and then these on top for the stack or chimney. We also have these dark bluish grey G-slopes, and these are for the rear of the tender, where it smooths down into the flat bit just before the bit to the coaches. So like I said, there's very few actual parts in stock that I can use for mock purposes, and all the bricks are just awaiting a bricklink order, essentially, whenever I get the funds to do that. So that's it for the final update at 9net, and I'll see you in the next video.